Welcome, everyone. My name is Brian Dunseth. Very, very pleased and happy and honored to be a part of this panel, Understanding Supporter Culture in Major League Soccer. I played in Major League Soccer. I joined the New England Revolution back in 1997. Now it's called Generation Adidas, but back then it was called Project 40. And to put in perspective the growth of this league, Project 40, leaving college early, I made 24 grand my first year as a professional soccer player. And I can wholeheartedly tell you that's a lot better than paying for college because I was not on scholarship, and playing at soccer at Cal State Fullerton, the opportunity to replicate my dreams and play at the highest level was something that 2 years previous was not afforded to American soccer players here in the United States. To see the way this league has grown both on and off the field, a lot of that has to do not just with the product on the field and the way that the product is packaged for the mainstream media and the fan base to absorb, but it has to do a lot with the three people to my right, creating atmospheres, creating cultures, creating relationships not only amongst each other and the fan base, but creating an incredible environment for the players. And going from the early days of playing in high school stadiums and cavernous NFL stadiums to now soccer-specific stadiums, and seeing $100 million expansion fees come in as more and more owners see the value of soccer here in the United States. So I'll kind of pass it down the line, allow the three next to me to introduce themselves and kind of get started about what this culture is and how it's been created in Major League Soccer.
Thanks, Brian. My name's Corey Ferlin. I'm actually one of the founding members of the Sons of Ben, which is actually the supporters group for the Philadelphia Union. We actually have the pleasure to be the first group that actually was in existence prior to a professional club showing up in Philadelphia. So it was actually kind of a cool thing. Like, it's never happened in the history of sports. Like, a fan club shows up and wills a league to bring a professional sports franchise to your city. So that's actually, been something that's been absolutely wonderful, just from beginning to end. But it's an honor to be here, and I look forward to taking part of this.
My name's Sean Dane. I'm the president of the Kansas City Cauldron, which is the Supporters Association. All right. See ya. Nobody else thought to bring their own fans.
He paid her to be here.
We are the Supporters Association for Sporting Kansas City that originally started as Kansas City Wizards in 1996 and rebranded late in 2010. We're a not-for-profit organization that has over 3,000 members in it from all across the stadium, and really the organization as we know it as the Cauldron has been in place since 1996 under a couple different names, but with the same intent.
Jen Muller with the Empire Supporters Club. We're one of the oldest clubs in MLS. We started in '95 before the league played their first game. We're one of three supporters groups for the New York Red Bulls, part of the South Ward, also a nonprofit.
So I guess one of the questions that, being a former player, as you step on the field and you turn around and you see this incredible atmosphere that's being created by this group of fans is, why? Why get involved? How does this start? Where does this begin? How does one go from being a fan to kind of creating this incredible atmosphere that you can see at home or on the road when any of the three teams to my right are playing? So Corey, I'll ask you, you touched on it, the fact that you guys started and essentially willed Major League Soccer into the Philadelphia area. What was it about the game? What was it about this group to look that far ahead to put yourself in a situation where you wanted to be a part of this?
I mean, for myself personally, it was something. I've played the game since I was a little kid. Like, my generation, our generation of everybody sitting here, like up here, is we were the first generation to grow up playing this game from a very, very young age. It wasn't baseball, it wasn't basketball, it wasn't football. We started playing at that time, and I fell in love with the game at, maybe 6, 7 years old, I knew like this is it. This is just where I need to be and what I need to do. Played all the way through high school, played through college, and got to a point where, I hurt my knee in college. I couldn't play anymore, so I was like, how can I get involved in this game in a different way? And I'm sure, as some of you know, like I'm from Philly, and Philly and our sports teams, we kind of have a, an interesting. It's interesting to hear like everybody else's thoughts on Philly sports fans and how we're the loudest and just obnoxious and whatever, but. We, kind of felt gypped from the beginning of this. Like Major League Soccer started in '96, and here we are in Philadelphia. It was just the 4th biggest media market in the country, and we didn't have a team, right? And like there was a team in New York, and there was a team in DC. They put a team in, 2 teams in San Jose before we got a shot. So we, and being a Philadelphian, we have such a hold on something that's our own. Like I was talking to these guys before, like I personally couldn't bring myself to be a fan of a team from New York or a team from DC or a team from Columbus. Like I just couldn't do it. It's not in my, my makeup. And we just kind of were like, all right, how can we build something that'll be ours? Watching the game on TV, watching the games overseas, like doing all this, it was cool. And you get your relationship, you develop a relationship with a club, but it's not your own. Like it's 3,000 miles away. And ours was just a labor of love. Like it started with 8 guys sitting in McGillen's pub talking about how can we somehow find a way to get Major League Soccer to bring a team to Philly. Like this game that we all love and we are so passionate about, how can we have that happen? And no blueprint, no anything, just out of sure will. We were just guerrilla marketers. We were everywhere. And we're like, you know what? Let's bring this to us. Like, let's not have to go somewhere to watch it anymore. Let's bring it here. And we started with 8 guys, and within a year, we had close to 3,000 people, signed up to be a part of this group. Now, it was kind of the perfect storm, the ownership group, the financing for a stadium, like it all just kind of happened. But, that was something that just kind of, I look back on it and I still can't wrap my head around it. It's really hard to put into words like what it was and how it happened. But, being a part of this group, it becomes so much more than just like going to like a sporting event. Like it's almost like, the best way to put it, it does become your family, but it's almost like this tribal mentality. Like we are here together to work as hard as we can to support, those 11 guys out on the field, on to victory. And like that's just the camaraderie that comes with that just is absolutely second to none.
Sean, you're in a fascinating situation because the team goes from Arrowhead to a AAA baseball field, which then rebrands into arguably, if not the best, one of the best stadiums in Major League Soccer. Kind of walk us through how you guys took the transition of kind of all 3 facilities with the name change and how you guys kind of came about with the Cauldron.
Well, the Cauldron itself started as the Mystics in 1996, which went along with the Wizards theme, which was absolutely terrible. There are some people that's very enduring to, but I've heard enough Dorothy and Wizard of Oz and Harry Potter jokes to last several lifetimes. It was terrible marketing, and at that time, it really, back in '96, we didn't have the advantage of social media. A lot of the organization that was being done, not just in Kansas City, but across the country, came out of national chat boards that people were involved with in the soccer community. And that's really the people that happen to be both technically inclined and interested in soccer then started making connections and made further connections through groups like Sam's Army, that was the dedicated supporters group for the U.S. national team, through the old NASL boards and things like this. I mean, the sport, although only goes back to 1996 in MLS, went way before that. And we were lucky enough to have particularly a guy named Sam Puron, who I think if anyone talks to that knows him, has absolutely been a driving force around the growth of supporters culture across the country. And he kind of laid the groundwork because he was both sociable, technically apt. Like, he walked into the Wizards front office and said, I'm going to build you a web page because you don't have one and you should. And he did, as a fan, and did it for free, maintained it so that there could be an internet presence for the team. And so that's the start. And then it starts evolving as people get interested. And like myself, in 1996, I went to the first game. Not because I was a diehard soccer fan. I played as a kid in Orange Slice leagues, but past that, that wasn't my thing. And like a lot of 18-year-old males at that time, soccer was not an American sport that you got behind. Every once in a while, you pay attention to the World Cup. That happened, and you go USA, but it wasn't in front of us all the time. And we're the only country in the world that's really had to fight an anti-soccer mentality to over 100 years. That wasn't welcome. But then, so those guys grew it, and at Arrowhead, we had a small sliver of the corner where those guys created a community of beer drinking, screaming, bringing some of the more what I'll call Northern European English-style chanting into the stadium, which was really kind of foreign to the sports landscape as far as American sports. We certainly yell and sing things at I'm a Chiefs season ticket holder and a Royal season ticket holder. And there's some of that there, but not in the same way. And so when I started going to games in like 2002, 2003 regularly, we got midfield tickets, and they were great. We sat around what you would expect to see at a soccer game, which were soccer families, kids with their parents, taking them to a game because their group sales were done to the soccer, to the youth league, and it was all well and good, but absolutely boring, and especially with 8,000 people in a 72,000 seat stadium. I mean, I could look across the field and be like, Jim, beer? And you could talk. But in the corner, there was this group of like 50 people that were having way more fun. And so at that time, Big Soccer was the messaging community. Some of you know it. The highlight of soccer communication and the depths and terribleness of the internet.
Converged.
Yeah, all in one easy place. And my roommate at the time got on there and found out, what the story was behind these guys in the corner that called themselves the Cauldron, and found out where they tailgated together in the parking lot. So the next game, we went over there. They offered us beer, they offered us barbecue, and they talked about a game that we were interested in and never looked back. I mean, there we go. It was a like community. And so that was great, and over the years, it kind of, as the sport evolved, and as Corey said, as kids specifically that had grown up playing the game became single, with disposable income that could go buy tickets and on their own look for something to do, that were looking for something different than Major League Baseball or NFL experiences. That grew a little bit at each step, and big steps in World Cup cycles, because people would pay attention to the game. And then they'd have an advertising campaign that says, oh, you're watching a World Cup game, you should go see a Wizards game. That's soccer in our town. But we still fought against the massive, cavernous Arrowhead Stadium. And then Lamar Hunt, who I have immense respect for, throughout all of his endeavors in sports, and Major League Soccer probably wouldn't be anywhere today without him, decided to put the Wizards up for sale at that time. And whereas Corey's group organized bringing the team into the city in the first place, we immediately tried to save our team, because there was a very real chance that our team was going to become Philadelphia or Rochester or someplace else, and we were going to lose our team. We had the worst merchandise sales in the league. We had the worst attendance in the league. I mean, just there was nothing really going. 13 of us met in a boardroom of a friendly lawyer and said, how do we keep a team in Kansas City? And it became a guerrilla marketing campaign. It came direct calls to cities trying to get financing for stadium plans. And in that process, we identified some guys like Greg Cotton, who's now part of the front office, and David Ficklin, who's now part of the ownership group, that while we did a more public campaign, they were able to do the behind the scenes finding people that actually had money, because we weren't that well connected to those people. And through that, we found the on-goal ownership group, but going into the tiny little baseball stadium was horrible and great at the same time. I mean, if you've ever watched a soccer game in a baseball stadium, it is horrible. Sightlines are terrible. Like, everything about it is wrong. We couldn't even make the field the right width, because we had to protect the sanctity of the mound, the pitcher's mound. And so, but at this time, it put us all in what were arguably the best seats in the stadium, behind the goal, and allowed us to grow because people wanted that connection. And we grew from 70, 80 people to a few hundred people who were interested in what we were doing. And that was amazing. And leading up to, the announcement of Sporting Park, we knew that we had to be ready to do something great with 18,000 seats that were dedicated in a way that we wanted. And so we kind of evolved again at that time to be ready to lead those people in a new way and really change what the Cauldron had been about, which was this kind of small group of people having fun together, to an organization that stood for inclusion from all walks of life. There is a place in the Cauldron, no matter what you do, where you come from, as long as you're not homophobic, racist, the things that we don't want in our society anyways. Anything else, we can put you to work and make our organization better, whether you're an accountant or a graphics designer. And we just capitalized on the existing support that Kansas City sports fans have inherently, and the love for our city, and really built on that. And once we had a stadium to showcase it in the way that the game should be showcased and focused on, and with an area that highlighted what we can do as supporters in our involvement in the game, it was just lightning in a bottle.
Jen, from the days of Giant Stadium and New York, New Jersey Metro Stars to the rebrand with Red Bull and Red Bull Arena, kind of walk us through your experience in the origination with Empire Supporters Club.
Well, ESC has always sort of had a contentious relationship with the front office going back to the Metro days. They didn't quite understand us. It was before my time, but the stories I've heard, they didn't really know what to do with supporters. And that was a league-wide issue. Nobody really, understood. The rebrand, we lost a good amount of people, just wanted nothing to do with being bought by a corporation. But we gained people too. We still sing Metro, we still hold on to that. And finally, the club, Red Bull, has, given up and embraced that. We do still acknowledge the past, and our relationship's gotten better as they've hired people that understand supporters and soccer and what have you. The new stadium helps, certainly.
Over the years, being a former player and then transitioning into the media, and being down on the sidelines for broadcasts, whether it be for NBC Sports or ESPN or Fox Sports 1, for me, it kind of takes me back to what it was like playing, but amped up to a whole new level. And to be on that sideline and really get an understanding and a feel of what the players are experiencing, and what ultimately becomes that home field advantage is something that's absolutely unreal. So I guess as we go down the line, all three of you, how do you go about creating the game day experience that isn't just for the group, isn't just for the fans inside the stadium, but resonates and ultimately has some type of effect on the players themselves?
I mean, it's not just about, like Brian just said, it's not just about this whole, like, let's create something in this building. This is something that, like I've mentioned once or twice before, is a labor of love. Like, we show up game day, we're there, get kickoffs at 7 o'clock. We are probably down in the stadium, or at the stadium site by 1 o'clock at the latest, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you know? Yeah, I see the looks. It's legit, it's no joke. You know, we set up we have a big tailgate outside of every game where, you know, any of our members can show up, and this year we're actually doing them as part of our membership package. It's like included, you don't have to pay any extra money. You can come down, all the food you can eat, all the beer you can drink, hang out, have a good time, hoot and holler, and then head into the game. You know, and then we sell walk-up tickets to people as well that come up. But we get there early because we got to set up for that. We can have anywhere from 150 to 1,000 people show up at one of these events. You know, you get the grills going, get this going, and then it transitions into, once that's set up, we have a crew that actually goes into the stadium that does probably an hour to an hour and a half of work, hanging up all of our tifo banners and getting our drums set up and getting everything, you know, orchestrated for, you know, the beginning of the game. And literally the rail in front of our end is, you know, one end of the stadium to the other, and it's 70-some yards wide. You know, and it is, every ounce of it is covered by some sort of color that was hand painted, hand designed, handmade by someone in the group. You know, and that's their way of expressing that. You know, not to mention, this is all, you know, 3 hours before the game starts, we're putting this all together. It gets all set up, we go back out, and then it starts to just build and build and build and build. And like, you can just feel the electricity inside you. And like, I can't speak enough for that feeling that I get, you know, and I'm not even setting out on the field, right? That I get walking through that gate, looking up at our section. I think it's 2,200 seats, full of 2,200 people. And like, everybody is amped up and is just as excited as I am for this game to start, you know? And that's something that, like, a football fan or a basketball fan or whatever other sport in the world, like, you know, you go to see the baseball game down in the city and you sit down, you grab a hot dog, you grab a drink, and you just kind of kick back and relax, you know? Oh, there's a home run, hey, let's cheer, let's do this. Like this, it's like, all right, we're getting ready to kick off. And 15 minutes before kickoff, like, it starts. You hear the drums start this tribal beat, like just boom, 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 boom. And like, it just continues to fill into this like crescendo of like when these players walk out onto the field, like wearing your colors, you know, that's something that's ours in our home city that we care so much about and have so much pride in, and they're out there representing us. Like, it just, and absolutely just explodes and it's constant energy for the next 90 minutes. Like, I've yet to take any of my friends that are not soccer people down to this event and like have them go there and hang out and experience it once and be like, this was the coolest sporting event I've been to in my life. Like, I need to come back. You know, like my best friend's a Flyers season ticket holder. He came down here, he's like, dude, where do I sign up? Like, how do I get in this? You know? And I know I've heard it from the players on the field too. They're like, you guys literally don't understand how much that helps us in the 85th minute. We're dog tired, our legs weigh 350 pounds, and like, we hear you guys singing and screaming and banging the drum for us. And like that, you know, it hasn't been the best home field advantage recently in our case, but it's still our place and it's our love and it's our thing, and we're there to just, you know, do that game in, game out, day in, day out. And it's just, as I said, it's an experience like no other.
Yeah, so you know, some of this is not unique to soccer, obviously, right? There are components of this that exist in every sport. And so it's really what's different about the game of soccer versus those sports and the way they're participated in the United States. And it's not easy it's not hard to see this exists around the world. I mean, you can go to England, you can go to the Bundesliga in Germany and see crazy fans. You can go to South America and see guys that may burn down their stadium on any given day. Like, luckily, we're not at that level, and you know, we have a great thing going. Nobody wants to burn our stadiums down. But the game, I think there's a lot of things, and these are, you know, going through this process of trying to save our team and have these basically soccer sales pitches over and over and over again about why we needed cities to approve financing to build stadiums, it really made us take a deep look at why we were doing it. And from a consumer point, it's a game that if I go to an NFL game, which I'm a season ticket holder for the Chiefs, it is about an 11-hour affair because we're huge tailgaters. My choice, but that's the way it's done. It's 11 hours of my Sunday that goes to a Chiefs game. Now, I can't say that I'm saving a lot of time because of all the things I have to do on game day, but if you're a consumer, it's 90 minutes. You get there an hour before the game, have some beers in the parking lot, whatever, go in, 45 minutes, go, take a break, 45 minutes, done. And you go home, and you haven't exhausted your entire weekend going to a game. It's much friendlier to consume on the other end. The accessibility that we have to the game, I think, is what makes it particularly unique for Major League Soccer versus other sports. The NFL is at such a level that, some of it's money, obviously. When you have guys that are making hundreds of millions of dollars, it's a much greater divide. As Dunny said, when he started playing, $24,000 was their salary. Like, I remember going to U.S. Open Cup games where our players were putting on their boots on the back of pickup truck beds before they went in to play a game in what is the oldest professional sports tournament in the United States. And so we're right there with them. We were immediately more connected to these guys because they're living our lives, not rolling around in Ferraris and whatever. So there's immediately a more connectivity to them. On top of that, there is a passion that exists in the game of soccer or world football that is unique. And it's unique in how we participate in it. But the underlying sentiment is the same thing across the world. It's pride in my city. It's pride in my club. And I am going to make a difference in that sport now. A gentleman here has a tattoo of a gunner on his arm. I'm assuming it's an Arsenal gunner. That's the passion that exists throughout the world for this sport. Obviously, those exist to a degree in other sports, but the game of world football is different. People are consumed by it constantly, and the younger demographics are absolutely consumed by it because I'm going to have some conjecture here, but I think a lot of it has to do with the connectivity of the world now. We are looking at everything that happens in real time around the world throughout social media, and we can have an immediate connection to somebody in England who's watching an Arsenal game or a Man U game and have that shared experience. And we want to know why that game that is the biggest game in the world, how we represent our country and our teams in it. And so that passion is shown for our city in the songs that we sing, in that 90 minutes of exhausting. I used to be one of the capos. I would leave there cramping up because I've been standing, jumping, and singing, for an hour and a half. It is a participation versus an observation that happens in the stands. And I think there's a lot in that draws people into the game.
Yeah, to touch upon what Sean was saying, especially with the homegrown players now, you have so many of these players that grew up as fans of the club and have been on the other side and maybe have been in the supporter section, and they have a much deeper appreciation for what we do as well. For me, I usually get on people that say, oh, well, we won, my team, we won, our team won. They use I and stuff like that, but you didn't play. You didn't win a World Series. With soccer, I can use we, because it feels like a we. If you feel like a part of the team. I don't know what it is, but maybe the accessibility. I don't know.
I'll say that, so we were lucky enough to have my beloved Royals go back to the World Series this year, and it was a blast to go through that process. But there was an energy in that stadium that didn't exist, and I think you can draw a direct link to the involvement that people have had in the kind of support that we do at Sporting Park that made them more vocal for the entire game throughout the World Series. I mean, we heard chants that we do in Sporting Park being done in the middle of World Series games. So it's a change in perspective of what we do as fans to be involved in the game.
You guys touched on two really fascinating points. One, how we've transitioned from the days of big soccer, and we've utilized social media in ways that it's connected fans, both young and old, immediately, whether it's waking up at 5 a.m. to watch Premier League or Bundesliga, or throughout the entire weekend as you kind of trickle into the afternoon games to the evening games, even CONCACAF Champions League and Liga MX, along with Major League Soccer. Being 39 years old and being kind of one of the original players in this league, it's still amazing for me to think that there were kids that were born after I played for the New England Revolution in 1997 who are now starters in this league at 17, 18, 19 years of age. You talked about that atmosphere, and when I'm in the three individual stadiums, as soon as a chant starts, as soon as a song starts, as soon as a drum beat starts, I instantly know which stadium I'm in if I've forgotten for a split second. It becomes iconic, and it becomes so relevant in the moment to the culture that you guys are creating, the atmosphere. One of the big things always when it comes down to soccer is tifos, the creation of tifos. How do you guys go about planning out these tifos? Because they're brilliant. You can take shots at everyone across the board. You can wind up the opposing team. You can make it incredibly personal for your own fan base or for your players. But it's also something that's very short-lived. So how do you guys go about the process, and why is it so important for you guys to, every single game, come up with something that's incredibly important to what you guys are trying to put out to the general public?
I mean, that's another piece of the puzzle that's so different than any other sport in the United States. And I almost have to explain it to people because, like Brian said, it's up for 25, 30 seconds, maybe a minute and a half, and it's spent.
First, does everybody understand what tifo is?
Yeah, my apologies.
I mean, it's large-scale graphic displays that usually take up the entire end or side of a stadium that are hand-created. Which we had some pictures of them, but that's the general idea. And you've seen this happen now in NFL and other games, that these big sheets that they come up that have, like Adidas did the jerseys, and I know the Chiefs had some things like, you see it happening in other sports now, but they're being produced by partners instead of us as the fans.
No, there you go. That's good. I apologize. Specifically in Philly, it's kind of started as back. It's grown over the years. Like, we first started doing it, and all respect in the world to these two guys, or this guy and this young lady down here at the end. Like, they came before us. They showed us the way of like what goes on in MLS and like how, we can kind of take what they've done and put our own spin on it. So like, all kidding aside, we do understand that they've been around a lot longer than we have. Like, we're entering our 7th season in the league, and they've been around since day one, so it's a pretty big discrepancy. But we started small with a banner that was maybe 40 feet wide by 30 feet tall. And the first one that we ever did was the skyline of Philadelphia with like this sunburst coming behind it, and the words said, "Our passion, our city, our club," And that was kind of like the inception of it. And these ideas, like, we literally, like, I'll be sitting at my work day on a regular basis and like call my buddy and be like, "Yo, I got this idea for a banner. Can you draw this?" Like, because I have no artistic ability, like, whatsoever. Like, I can't do paint by number. Like, I'm sorry, like, out 100%. And he'd be like, "Yeah, absolutely." He's like, "All right, go get the fabric. Let's put it together. Let's sew it all together, and let's do it." And, it takes hours upon hours upon hours of this. Like, so this fabric is, now each dimensions of our stands and where we sit is completely different, so we're kind of, hamstrung by different things in that nature, but we did one that covered our entire section of 2,200 seats that was cut into 5 different pieces that were set up in front of each of the sections, and they came up, and on our crest of the Philadelphia Union, there's this snake from the Gadsden snake from Ben Franklin and the whole Revolutionary Army, and we did a Gadsden snake that kind of curled its way across 7 sections in the river end, that was drawn by hand, not like projected on a wall or not anything like that. Like, we have a guy that is that talented that he can look at a sheet that's 40 feet tall by 50 feet wide and literally draw it by hand on there. And then, you have all, basically what it is you have a big party. You order some pizzas, bring some beer, and like people show up and literally.
Just like you're painting your house.
Pretty much, it's it. And you paint this banner, and you have to find obviously the spaces and places to do it. And then it's got to sit and dry, and it's a very time-intensive process. And then it's displayed for 30 seconds, maybe a minute and a half tops, and then it's done. And the thing is with it, it's like it's another way for us to express the pride in our club, the pride in our city, and what we are there to do. And I don't know. I've never played on a field where somebody pulled a tifo banner down, so I can't tell you what that feels like from that end. But I know that a lot of the players do have, they're grateful that we've done this, whether it's something personal, for that one person, or it's again just broad support for the team. It's just something that they're very, very grateful for.
Yeah, so there are kind of 2 points here. One, this isn't something that we've created in Major League Soccer. This exists around the world. You look at places like Borussia Dortmund in Germany, and they do displays that are just unbelievable. The South Americans tend to do more streamers and things like that. You go to some of the Asian leagues, and they do mass card displays, card stunts. But these are all content created by the fans, and the concept isn't, I don't know how many of you are in branding and marketing, but it's the same thing. We're just not marketing a product. We're marketing our team and our passion. And we've always our messaging has always been pro-city. We don't do tifos about the other team being horrible or whatever. We might do some small banners that we hold over on the side, but that's when we do, the biggest one we did was 240 feet wide by 45 feet tall, and it's all hand painted. Now, I have the luck of having a theatrical background and had people who actually know how to do that for a living to help us out, but it's still, these endeavors take one time. Any given display probably has 600-700 hours of labor put into it. I'm talking as a group, obviously, done over several weeks, usually, and finance. I mean, they're not cheap. Our average tifo costs anywhere in the neighborhood between $4,000 and $6,000. Now we tend to spend a little more because I buy goods that are already ready, and we have the finances to be able to do that. We are a self-funded organization. We generate $400,000 a year in revenue as a supporters association, and we use that money to do these things. And we also use it to buy beer for everybody. Some would argue the beer is more important. But the desire to do this goes back to the same principle. We want to show our support for the team. There's an iconic picture from Sporting Park when we played in the U.S. Open Cup in 2012. And the players had their huddle, walk out towards midfield, and we created a giant banner that sort of looked like a stained glass window in a church. And I'm happy to take credit for this one. At the bottom it said, "For the glory of the city." Trademarked, don't try to use it. But it was a simple message. This is our city. You're playing for the glory of it. And I talked to those guys, and when they turned around and they saw that message in front of them, and that one was 60 feet wide by 40 feet tall, like there's your boost. You turn around and see that, and you're ready to go run the 16 miles that you have to put into the game. And that's our goal. We're there to impact the game, to make things stronger, and to empower our team to win. Now, there's this other end of it that we like having those pieces of art, which is really what they are, talked about in the world scene. In Portland, if you look at the Timbers Army, they do amazing work, amazing finances behind it to get it done, and manpower. But there's a site that kind of is dedicated to tifo. They were number 3 in the world for their opening day tifo. In talking with some of the great clubs around the world, I mean, this is a huge statement and a sense of pride for us to be on the global scene and say, you know, these guys in America are doing something. They're not, we can't just ignore them anymore. They are legit. And I know I travel to England a lot for work. There's legitimate concerns that we're about to become, you know, the superpower that we can be in the game because of the talent base that we can pull for. And people see us starting to get it together and see that it's not a joke anymore. We're ready to take our place on the world stage. And TIFO's part of that. It's showing that energy across the world from the players in the stadium to the fans in the stadium to the world.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I have no problem with tifo, but for me, it's about the what happens during the 90 minutes, the singing and what have you. That being said, tifo has become a major part of it. For us, we split it between pro team and anti whoever we're playing. So we have no problem going after our rivals. So we keep our big displays for our DC, Philly, New York.
I will tell you, you did make me laugh. So again, you look at our logo; it's got the snake coiled up, and like the Union, like their big thing is dupe. Like after we score a goal, we play this Euro trash techno song that's like, and it's dupe is the
catchy.
thing. It is kind of catchy if you hear it. But anyway, so if you take the head off the snake, it kind of looks like a pile of dog poop. So they did a banner that said poop and had like the head of the snake. It kind of made
They
me
won't
chuckle.
let us bring it into PPL
That's so
Park anymore.
good, dude. Give it to me. I'll get it and give it
All
back
right,
to you because
all
it's
right.
pretty funny.
Awesome.
But on the flip side of it, like they have their, you know, this skunk on their logo, and then the one game they came down, we did like the Sons of Ben logo is the Jolly Franklin, which is like a Grim Reaper with like the oar and the scythe staying there, and we had him standing over a skunk that just happened to be missing his head, you know.
Yeah, we had a nice.
But it's all fun.
We had a nice Smokey the Bear change up, and it was Whiz on the Fire, because we used to be. If you don't know the history, we were called the Wiz for a season until we were sued and not allowed to use that name, and then we became the Wizards.
Great jerseys.
I'm not going to say that was a bad move, but so it used to be Whiz on the Fire.
Yeah.
So we had some good fun with that, but.
They kind of just referenced it. For those that maybe missed out on this little piece of news, Orlando City SC against Real Salt Lake this past weekend, 60,167 in the bowl. It was the 5th highest attended soccer game in the world that weekend.
On Sunday.
On Sunday.
Yeah.
5th highest. Incredible atmosphere. I was there, yeah.
We see you back there, Orlando.
Yeah. Especially when you score 2 goals in the last 2 kicks of the game.
Yeah.
That always helps out. Jen, I'll start with you. The Independent Supporters Council, highly unique scenario, Supporter Shield, which is awarded to the team with the best record from the start of the season to the end of the season. Jen, talk a little bit about those two and why it was so important across the board for something like that to be created.
Well, I mean, I view, and Sean's been involved with it longer than I have, but so we may have a different opinion, but I view it, the ISC, as almost like a union, where we're there to a good union.
Sorry, the ISC is the ISC is the Independent Supporters Council of North America, and it is a group of all of the supporters groups like us, leaders, that get together to work.
Right. Not only to exchange ideas and what have you, but to have each other's backs. Like with Angel City Brigade last year, were sanctioned for throwing streamers at MLS Cup, basically. Basically, we all got together and supported them, got the sanctions knocked down. Maybe you can go on with the shield, 'cause that's your baby.
So there's two great things. The Independent Supporters Council, we originally, for many, many years, there was something called the Supporter Summit that revolved around MLS Cup every year. And it was a great time for all of us soccer dorks to get together and say, hey, we love the game.
But it was a Star Trek convention.
Yeah, basically. Luckily, the demographics of the game have changed greatly for all of you marketing people. The Independent Supporters Council formed because we felt like there were things that we needed as supporters across the league that had to be dealt with league-wide. And so some of the first things that we dealt with were away travel, which is it is a unique thing in the American landscape. Last year we traveled for our U.S. Open Cup game. We took 1,100 people to Philadelphia for that game as an organized group. I mean, obviously many people took care of their own travel, but we put 1,100 people in the corner of their stadium to sing against them 25 feet away from them. There are unique challenges that go on with that, specifically security. And you see this, when you see most of the problems in European football, it is generally this. It is what happens to the away fans when they go to other stadiums and interact. There are certain games that are more tense than others. But we felt like there needed to be standardized policies for travel, the lead up to travel, security planning, things like that we knew were supposed to happen in every stadium. And at the time, there weren't. And because of this group and our ability to work directly with the league, we were able to create these standardized policies. Personally, my favorite thing to kind of come out of this is the Supporters Shield, which was created in 1998 by some of those guys on the original chat boards. And around the world, the winner of soccer leagues, football leagues, are the points winner, not a playoff system. You win the most points in the year, and you win. You can have side tournaments like the FA Cup or whatever, but the end goal is you have the most points. Well, we're Americans, so we obviously weren't going to do that. We created the penalty shootouts, and all this crap that got in the way because we wanted to Americanize the game. And we didn't recognize the points winner. And so the Sam Piron, particularly with some other guys, one of the guys from the Miami Fusion at the time, said, look, we want to represent the team that puts the most points forward. And so through a bunch of kind of fundraising efforts, including donations from like broadcaster Phil Schoen and the original, the commissioner of the league, all said, yeah, we should do this. And right down the road for me, a student at KU built a little trophy. And I think that trophy cost $1,500, which was then passed from one supporters group to the other every year and then given to the team that you won the points. And at the creation of it, we asked that there be some real power behind it, and luckily we had those that supported it. So you now get a CONCACAF berth if you win the Supporters Shield, home field advantage if you're the Supporters Shield winner. So it means something besides just winning the points. And we back 2010, we decided it was time to update the trophy and make it look like the kind of trophy you want to win. And so we crowdsourced about $19,000, which we as the Cauldron put up front, and then were repaid by selling scarves to remain stay in soccer supporters culture through all of the supporters groups around the league to fund that trophy. And that trophy is owned by the Supporters Shield Foundation, which I'm not the president of anymore, but whatever. I think I'm the treasurer. I still have some office, but I can't remember. Anyways, we own that. The league does not own it. We own it as the fans, and it is handed out by us to the team that wins the points every year. And again, this is that direct connection that we have to the players in the league that doesn't exist in other sports. And it's why the supporter shield means so much to most of us that have been in the league this long. It is the real testament to who could make it through the entire season with the best record. And we created it and own it. And everybody who bought one of those scarves, all 2,500 of them, owns a piece of that trophy. They put in to make that trophy happen, and so it is more connected to the fans than any other award in the sports landscape.
We have about 10 minutes left. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah. Sure, if you want, or yell. Either way's good.
Hi guys, really enjoyable session, thank you very much. As you'll know, English Premier League clubs have lots of supporter clubs across the US, a real concentration. They're some of the most passionate, dedicated fans that you'll get because they get up early in the morning as much as anything else. Do you feel that it's possible to be really passionate about an English Premier League club and really passionate about an MLS club, or is that not really?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we see it. I mean, to be honest, most of, especially, I'm the same age as Dunny. I could have been a soccer player, but I chose a different direction. It is absolutely founded in our love for that game because that was the game that we had to existed. It is immigrants coming to the United States that had brought the game with them. And so there certainly is, I mean, within the cauldron, I know of where there's an Arsenal supporters group, there's a Tottenham supporters group, and they get together Saturday morning and they watch their Premiership games, and they're the best teams in the world. I mean, why does everybody want to watch the NBA? Because they're the best basketball players in the world. You want to watch the best soccer players in the world, you watch the Premiership. That's it. But then you walk away and you support your club because that's your city, just the same way that you can watch the World Cup and no matter what part of the world you're from and you live in England, you're going to support your country. Well, it might make you an Arsenal man. Name just keeps popping in my head.
You have to give yourself completely to one club.
I mean, but they're different leagues, so there's no competition there. It's not like, oh, well, today I'm going to root for Dallas. No. Same way someone from Tottenham can't root for somebody from Arsenal. Like the two.
But what I mean is, can you have a club here and a club over there?
Yeah, it happens throughout the
Absolutely.
league, totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And just a quick follow-up, could you give a few more examples of how you've worked with your clubs to make fan events happen?
Well,
I'll sit down while you're answering.
worked with like the ownership of the club. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, how they helped you make things happen.
We actually, fortunately for us, we've had a pretty good relationship with our club since the inception. There's been a lot of kind of turnover in the last 6 to 8 months. We have pretty much a brand new regime involved in everything. I mean, we were as involved with when they were building the stadium. They had our input on how they would like to design where we're going to sit. And in our park, it's completely separate from the rest of the stadium. And it's a horseshoe, and then there's our little island that we kind of inhabitate. That's not even a word. I just made it up. Shh, don't worry about it. Anyway, but it's kind of like we've had almost like an equal relationship with them because specifically in our situation, without us, they don't exist. Without them, we don't exist. You know?
I mean, and it's not like this is an argument that's made around the world, right? I mean, you look at the struggle between Manchester United fans and their ownership group. We're in a lucky position right now in our city that we have an ownership group that listens to us and understands that symbiotic relationship. We're selling their product for them, and they get a staff of 2,000 marketing people without paying anybody. We're the ones that show up. We're the ones that buy the jerseys. We're the ones that create the atmosphere that they can bottle, sell on TV rights. And so they've been very supportive of that. You know, the question is what happens down the road when money changes that. And we don't know. But I think that what we have, it's a unique relationship that we have in the United States. So obviously, some are better than others. The front office relationships are better than others. But I think it's also helpful that our ownership group was really developed by fans in the first place.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better from a Metro Red Bulls perspective. They've finally gotten people in the front office that we deal with day to day, that know the game, know the culture. And I mean, our ops guys are great. Basically, they won't say no unless they'll exhaust every option unless they just know it's legally impossible.
Okay. To that point, a couple of years ago, I think the Fire had a very bizarre. Do you remember the blog post that the press guy from the Fire did? Chicago Fire?
Yes.
It was some weird ranty 2,000 words of "don't abuse our ownership" because fans have been, telling. Very weird. Anyway, maybe have your thoughts on that.
I mean, that's a very bad situation right now.
It's like really odd.
Yeah.
The question I was going to ask was, so MLS Digital itself, it does a really good job, right? It does really good services. The app's pretty good. The site's pretty good. All the rest of it. But quite often the clubs themselves struggle to kind of establish their own identity and run their services, and they kind of weirdly. Sometimes it's all done by the league. It's not done by the club. And does that impact the fans? Does that make a difference to you in terms of?
Yeah, I mean, my club is incredibly good at this. They started a digital company just to create their own solutions to this. And so I have to let somebody else talk to the downfalls of it because we're really good, and we do appreciate that direct connection to the people behind the keyboards. We know them and we know who they are by their other personal social persona.
Yeah, we have people in there now that know us personally. So if we need to get a word out, they'll help us, whether it's a charitable event or whatever. And I think it's just I think league-wide it's been improving.
Yeah, I think it helps the growth of the sport. Thank
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
for being really good at digital.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's also there's also this advantage that the club gets. So we, I think Sporting Kansas City has 192,000 followers on their Twitter account. Somewhere in there. We have 26,000 as the Cauldron. Well, the people that pay attention to us are really paying attention to the league, and we don't have any boundaries for what we have to say or plug or anything. And so there's this whole other marketing that we're doing as the fans, for the fans, by the fans, that has a great impact on the atmosphere around the game.
Hi, Andreas from the Bundesliga. We also want to be addressing the American audience. Can you share any insights how we can improve the way how we communicate to the American fans or how we offer our products in a digital way or in a TV way?
Yeah, I think you made a big stride this year with the television contract that was signed. We have a big Bundesliga group in Kansas City that watches the games, and so I think like anything, it's accessibility. And I know that the guys that are Bundesliga fans in Kansas City, they have their clubs, whether it's Borussia Dortmund or Frankfurt or whoever it is. And so there's already, I think those existing means of communication, they're going to see those streams from the clubs. I don't know how you directly address them in connecting with each other, but they exist. And there are certainly Twitter subgroups that are following that. And the biggest growth you could do is by setting up more bar partnerships to get a place to watch those games on Saturday morning. Yeah. Mm-hmm. In a lot of cities, that's still a huge challenge to just have a place that'll open up at 8 o'clock in the morning to play those games. And then the cost of the package on TV that they have to invest, those kind of things, those are always going to be challenges. But fans need a place to go. It's something that we fought for years, bouncing from one bar to another just to get Wizards games on TV, and that was our team. So now I know that I'm on the Bundesliga page. I'm not a huge fan. I follow it. I love the fans in the Bundesliga, but my friends that are part of that are very active in supporting the places that help them support it and get together. So it was really just accessibility.
Yeah, and I'm a part of the broadcast, and there's someone in the room involved with Fox Sports 1, and I can tell you that the amount of focus that Fox Sports 1 is placing on Bundesliga, it's just the beginning, and it is a long-term project that I think, I'm a huge Bundesliga fan. I spent time at Leverkusen. I know the importance. I know the culture, and it's just the beginning, and the reality is the competition at this point for the world of soccer and the games and the eyeballs, it's at a whole different level than it was even 5, 6, 7 years ago.
And I think there's a unique dynamic to the Bundesliga that we really love, which is the fan ownership model. Absolutely. It is incredible, and I think if in a dream world that's what happens, we would love to see that become the model of the United States. So I think there's a lot of things in the Bundesliga that are attractive to an American viewer, at least to me.
Yeah, and I don't mean to cut you off. We're actually getting the sign. So do you want one more quick question? Because I know you've been waiting.
Did she give us the Navy SEAL
Yeah,
sign?
we got the
Okay,
Navy SEAL.
real quick, my name's Phil West, and just kind of a quick plug. I do writing for MLSsoccer.com on a lot of things about fan culture, and I've got a book coming out in the fall on the Overlooked Press, which is a history of MLS that deals a lot with supporters culture as well, history. And I wanted to ask you guys, I think one of the things that makes soccer really pleasurable, particularly MLS, is the sense of humor that a lot of fans seem to have. So I just want to ask you guys, just kind of as a final question here, what you do to cultivate that.
A lot of it is almost spontaneity. Like, it's not something that we go into a game saying we're going to poke fun at this person or that person or whatever. Kansas City, for example, would come to PPL Park or Talon Energy Stadium. Let me be politically correct at this point.
On brand.
Yeah, right, exactly. Jimmy Nielsen, their goalkeeper, big, tall, blonde hair.
Bridget?
Perfect example, kind of resembles Bridget Nielsen. Nielsen. And he absolutely loved it. He would turn around and hoot and holler, and, it's kind of just like spontaneity, like something, like there's a lot of creative people in these places, and when you combine, creativity with a couple cocktails and a couple of this, like, it starts to flow, and it just goes.
I think to answer your question, we specifically make sure that our outward social media voice on Twitter is one of fun, because look, we all know people who take sports really seriously. There are 100 message boards full of trolls out there that will just destroy any conversation, and we don't want that. I mean, we have them too, but we want our outward social media message from the Supporters Association to be one of, man, this is a good time. I want to be a part of this. And humor is a huge part of that. If you follow at KC Cauldron, plug, we make fun of everything, including ourselves, especially my terrible ability to spell things correctly in my tweets. It is the meerkats in the basement that run our account. And we also diversify that. There are 8 people that run our Twitter account so that we have ongoing conversation when I'm not available or the other guy isn't available. There's always somebody to answer a question and create that, I hate marketing words, but that brand awareness and connectivity and buy-in, it's the same for us. We're just happen to be fans and not Toyota or Budweiser or whatever, but we want the same kind of buy-in to what we do.
Yeah, for Jen and Sean and Corey, appreciate it. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, everybody.